We discussed about the safety pharmacology and their introductions to the human pharmacology. Now, the past events of thalidomide and theralizumab failures become a major incident in documenting the adverse drug reactions on a global levels. The theralizumab failures, the biopharmaceuticals adverse drug reactions and toxicity are more complex than those caused by the organic molecules encountered in conventional pharmaceuticals. What do you mean by these organic molecules and biopharmaceuticals? The theralizumab is a human monoclonal antibodies, and the other drugs like methotrexate, paracetamol, ciprofloxacin are the synthetic molecules, and the major difference is their origin. The origin of theralizumab is particularly biotic in nature. This lead to the more grave adverse drug reactions, and monoclonal bodies are human specific. They are particularly targeting the human cancer cells, as we discussed the CD28. The immune response in an animal is predictable because of this. However, the immunogenicity is an animal does not mean that will be reflected in the humans, as the human body is a hugely complex process. The history repeats itself. The theralizumab was not, of course, the first drug where the animal test failed to predict the disasters. After thoroughly validations and adopting the certain protocols, the drug did not cause major side effects during the preclinical studies and during the pharmacokinetic and pharmacodynamic studies. As we have seen this with the thalidomide. The thalidomide is the biggest example from the half a century earlier. This is sedative licensed in 1957 and used as over-the-counter treatment for the morning sickness. These two, first is the theralizumab and second is the thalidomide. Thalidomide is organic in nature, theralizumab is biotic in nature, the biopharmaceutical. These two examples are enough to set the new guidelines for the research in pharmacology. The thalidomide disasters, the drug had a teratogenic properties resulting in severe limb deformities in fetus lead to the phocomelia. The property was not discovered in biological in vivo testing using the mouse. The drug does not induce teratogenicity in mice. Mice are in fact ineffective analogs for humans. The thalidomide catastrophe was the main driver for a much stricter regulatory regime, requiring much closer scrutinizing of efficacy and safety of the drugs. Next, we discussed in our introductions the sulfanylamide disasters. Predating thalidomide by more than 20 years was the sulfanylamide case. Sulfanylamide is an antibiotic class. The drug had been used to treat the streptococcal infections as a powder and a tablet. Commonly used powder and tablets. In 1937, a liquid form was introduced involving diethylene glycol. The agent is diethylene glycol. It is very used in cosmetic products. Now, the regulatory inadequacy. The development of the liquid form sulfanylamide elixirs predated toxicity testing. Diethylene glycol is a solvent used in antifreeze and is highly toxic. The toxicity is due to the metabolite glycolic acid, which is cytotoxic in nature. After ingesting, directly killing the cells within the humans and the kids. Glycolic acid is further metabolized into the oxalic acid, which is also toxic. First is sulfanylamide elixirs. The ethylene glycol is toxic. Their metabolic products, glycolic acid is toxic, and further the oxalic acid, the byproduct, is also toxic. It means there is a augmentation of toxicity in the body. The International Council of Harmonizations of Technical Requirement for Pharmaceutical for Human Use, they promote by the regulators and the pharmaceutical industries of the United States, the European Union and Japan determine what is required for non-clinical studies to support the clinical and registration of a new drugs. The tablet is okay, the external preparation is okay. When we are forming a new formulations, it means a syrup type elixirs. We introduce diethylene glycols. We need to check the toxicity of each and every additives and excipient used during the formulation. And ICH gives us certain objectives to eliminate this fault. Improving the efficiency of a drug development and registration process, the promotion of public health, to reduce or prevent the duplication of clinical trials, to reduce the animal testing without compromising safety and efficacy of the candidate drug. Now, this lead to the formations of adverse drug reactions, and a new branch of pharmacology is introduced, adverse drug reactions. WHO in 1972 gave the definitions for adverse drug reactions: a response to a drug which is noxious and unintended and which occurs at doses normally used in man for prophylaxis, diagnosis or therapy of disease or for the modification of physiological functions. It means a drug is given for prophylactic use, for diagnosis use, for prevention of disease, for cure. It should not cause any noxious or unintended effect, undesirable effects in the human body. On the basis of onset, the drug side effects can be divided in three major parts. First is acute, that occurs within the 60 minutes after the administration of a drug. You had taken a medicines and within 15 minutes, 30 minutes, before 60 minutes, you notice there is allergic reactions in your body and feeling nauseatic, sedations or any pain in your body, heartbeat irregulations, you may report, and this side effect is known as acute. And any side effect that start after the administration of drug and after 1 hour to 24 hours. The duration is after 1 hour to 24 hours. This is known as a chronic side effects. Any side effect that appear or deliver or in your body after the completion of 24 hours and within the 2 days, this is known as a latent side effects. And another classifications of a drug is based on severity. The minor, moderate, severe, lethal, adverse. Minor. In case of minor, there is no admissions. The side effects can be disappear after the certain hours and there is no change in the drug domain. There is no need to the hospitalization. Second is moderate. The patient suffers certain allergic reactions, change in the blood pressures, heart rate. Patient need to visit the doctors, they need to consult with the prescriber, consultants for the side effects. Need to visit the hospitals, the clinicians or pharmacists may change the drug regime. It may increase or decrease the dose. Sometimes the increased dose may affect you, sometimes decreased dose may subside the side effects faced by the patients. Third is severe. In severe case, there is a hospitalizations, urgent hospitalization of the patient. Next is change in the domain. Drug regimen is changed. The whole pharmacotherapy is changed. It means after the administration there is certain change at the various levels and patient suffers a lot. For that purpose, hospitalization is mandatory. And the last is lethal ADRs, when the patient is about to die because of the inhalations, because the administration of the certain drugs. So these are the four major classification of ADR based on the severity: minor, moderate, severe, lethal, and onset of event acute, subacute, latent. So these two classifications are based on the severity and time. Apart from it, there is further classification of ADRs: A, B, C, D, E, F. These are the classification of drugs based on the reactions in our body. The augmented A stand for augmented is mean dose related effects. B is bizarre, non dose related. C is chronic dose related and time related. D is delayed. E is end of use. F is failure. Let's discuss one by one. The augmented. The commonly related to the pharmacological action of the drug, exaggerated the pharmacological response, predictable and low mortality. Example, dry mouth with tricyclic antidepressants, respiratory depressants with the opioids and bleeding with the warfarin. The effect is increased, augmented. Either in these cases, we can reduce the doses and certain side effects can be reduced and managed. Reduce dose, how we will manage these side effects? Simply reduce the dose or withhold the drug. We can reduce the dose or we can alter, we can prescribe any other medications. Consider the effects of concomitant therapy. We can administer certain drugs. For example, if a patient complaining after the injections of a drug causing gas formations or nauseatic, the doctors may prescribe the pantoprazole, omeprazole and other or acidity, ranitidine can be prescribed along with the prescriptions. Next is bizarre, non-dose related. Doctor is prescribing a medications and the patient is suffering certain disorder, but their exact reason is not known. Uncommon. Why it is uncommon and why it is not reported during the clinical trial? As the patient size during the clinical trial is very less, 1000, 5000, 10,000 samples. But when our drug is launched into the market, when it is exposed to a large population in crores, in millions, in billions, the total population of world is around 6 to 7 billions. The drug is exposing to 6 to 7 billion, but in the lab it is hardly exposing to few thousands people. So how it is practically impossible for a researcher, for a company, for a sponsor to conduct a huge clinical trials. That's why certain side effects are not reported during the conductions of the clinical trial. This bizarre means the non-dose related features. These are uncommon, not related to the pharmacological or the action of the drugs. Unpredictable and high mortality. Example, immunologic reactions, anaphylactic reactions. Example, the penicillins, anaphylaxis to penicillin. Penicillin reaction is very common. That's why when the penicillin is administered to certain people using the parenteral routes, IM, IV, it need to be tested on small area of the skin, so that if any irritation occur, the penicillin should be avoided and must not be administered to our patients. Idiosyncratic reactions, malignant hyperthermia with general anesthetics. Anesthetics may cause hyperthermia in certain population and also bring the malignancy. The management is withhold and avoid in the future. We should not use the penicillin. We can use certain kinds of penicillin or a high level ciprofloxacin, other aminoglycosides, avoiding this amino penicillins. C is chronic, dose related and the time related. These are uncommon, related to the cumulative dose. Example, hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis suppressions by the corticosteroids. Now, corticosteroids. Corticosteroids example are prednisolone, dexamethasones. They are easily and quickly prescribed certain quake in Indian origins. And hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis suppressions become common. Doctors are prescribing dexamethasone and prednisolone so frequently. Why? A single dose, a single khurak can treat the patients and patients say, wow, डॉक्टर साहब ने एक खुराक में डॉक्टर मुझे ठीक कर दिया. तो this nature of corticosteroids, prednisolone, dexamethasone is used by the certain quack, but they don't know the chronic side effect of this dexamethasone, prednisolone, particularly corticosteroids. Osteonecrosis of the jaw with biphosphates. Management, immediate change in the dose and withdrawal of the therapy. Reducing dose or use an alternative day therapy is useful for the management of chronic side effects. The delayed, they are not shown immediately, but they are delayed. It means after the administration of the drug, it took months, years, or sometimes it took more than 5 years or 10 years, and the effects will come up. Uncommon, very uncommon, usually dose related, occurs or becomes apparent sometimes after the use of the drugs. You completed your treatment with the drug after 2 years, you face some changes in your body, you feel some uncomfortable within your human system, within your body. You go to the doctor and doctor will say कि you are detected with certain kinds of cancers or movement disorders or platelets reductions. So these are the delayed time related. Carcinogenesis, teratogenesis, dyskinesia, leukopenia are the some major examples of delayed adverse drug reactions. End of use, withdrawal. Uncommon occurs soon after the withdrawal of the drugs. Withdrawal symptoms. The therapy is completed, but after the therapy is completed and you are perfectly fine, but you are dependent on the drug, you become addict to the drug, you become the dependent on the drug. Whenever you are taking the drug, there is a complete calmness in your body, and whenever you are just leaving the drugs, there are certain disorders happening. The anxiety, you are feeling anxiety in your body, you are dependent on drug, you are facing insomnia, you took the pill and you become calm. You took the drug and after taking the medication, you got a very good sleep. It means you are dependent on the drugs. Examples are opioids or benzodiazepines, alprazolam, clonazepams. People become dependent for the sleep. They took the sleeping pills for treating their insomnia disorders or anxiety. Management is based on a reintroduce the drug and withdrawal slowly. So in that cases, we can reduce the dose of opioids or benzodiazepine, starting with the 50 mg or 30 mg, then 20 mg, then 0.25 mg. So we can reduce the therapy and we can treat this disorder. The failure, unexpected failure of the therapy. This is purely related to the dose, often caused by the drug-drug interactions. Inadequate dose of an oral contraceptives when used with an enzyme inducers. Resistance to antimicrobial agents. The management is increased dose. Consider the effects of concomitant therapy. Now, resistance to antimicrobial agents. The first antibiotic is discovered by the Alexander Fleming, and in this time we are without judicious diagnosis tool, we are prescribing the antimicrobial agents, ciprofloxacin, amoxicillin, broad spectrum, narrow spectrum, every kind of antibiotic we are using, and the patient and doctors are not adhered to the regimens. The 5 days, 7 days, 10 days, the patients are not adhere with the complete duration therapy. and it is resulting in the resistance to antimicrobial agents. Others classifications of ADRs based on the severity, the minor, moderate, severe, lethals, as already discussed. Now, these are the side effects happening. On the basis we define the minor, moderate, severe, lethals, A, B, C, D. After knowing what is our responsibility, what is the responsibility of our healthcare professionals, how we can use this data for monitoring the data. So, what is the benefit? First is the monitoring of the ADR is essentials. Detecting the adverse drug reactions, documentations of ADR, reporting the serious ADRs to pharmacovigilance centers, assessing the causality between the drug and suspected reactions. Now, the detections of ADRs is comprises of three major phases: phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. And the detections of ADR is divided vertically in two parts: pre-marketing studies and post-marketing surveillance. In post-marketing surveillance, we have further three classifications: is spontaneous adverse drug reactions and epidemiological methods, case control studies, cohort studies. These are the techniques used for post-marketing surveillance. And in pre-marketing studies means conducting the clinical trial or drug development. During the development of new medicines, their safety is tested in animals, that is, preclinical studies. A great deal of risk information may be obtained from the such tests, such as the level of the acute toxicity, which organs will be affected in case of toxicity. If the animal tests do not reveal worrying results, safety test proceeds on to testing in the humans. The clinical trials are carried out in three different phases prior to the submissions of a marketing authorizations applications. The consequence of above is that the time of general marketing of a new medicines only the most common type A adverse drug reactions will be known. The clinical trial are the time bound, that's why only a type A adverse drug reactions is noted during the clinical trial. Now, the drug is launched to the market and the drug is exposed to the large population, and it consider exposing to different countries, different demography data. It means different ethnic group, different races, and their genes are different. The Indians is further divided in south, north, and other. So there is demography change, and their genes perceptions is different. The drug is reacting with their genes and affecting outcome is different. In post-marketing studies, passive and active pharmacovigilance methodologies are used for detections of risk and for the collections of the risk informations. For that, we have spontaneous adverse drug reactions or spontaneous adverse reaction reporting, powerful and cost effective system for the identification of unknown drug related risk. Healthcare practitioners should see it as their duty to report any suspicions of drug causing risk situations in patients under his care. Spontaneous reporting creates signals of previously unknown problems. Next is epidemiological methods. These methods are used to verify the hypothesis of a causal link between the drug exposure and adverse drug reactions. Now, the causal relationship between a drug and non-causal relationship. We took a medications, and some relationship are very casual. It can be come out the nausea, vomiting, sometimes kinesia, and sometimes pain. may be occur with the dose. That is, but there is a uncontrolled like severe migraine after the administration. So, how to report all this? For that, we need to conduct the epidemiological methods. So, these are further divided into 4 types of studies. First is cohort studies, case control studies. These 2 studies, and they are exposed, and on the basis of exposure, we have outcome. Cohort studies. Patients exposed to a particular drug are followed up actively and systematically, and ADR frequencies are compared to an unexposed to control populations. The main advantage of conducting the cohort studies is reveals the unsuspected ADRs, and in case control studies, individuals affected by the adverse event being studied are identified. Each case is matched with a several disease. The free control patients randomly recruited from the study base. In this class, we study about the safety pharmacology and their different role for human welfare. In the next part, we discuss about the ADR, types of the ADR on the basis of duration, on the basis of severity, and on the basis of their reactions and dose. And last, in the last sections, we discuss about the monitoring of the ADR, that is known as the pharmacovigilance. Thank you.